welcome everyone to, I believe this is our 20th, thecommongear.com podcast, where we talk about recent notable sales in the digital auction world, primarily consisting of Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids. Under a unique theme each week or a heading of some kind. Sometimes it's just really notable sales. Sometimes there's a little more color behind it. In this case, we're going with the latter this week. So we are looking at three unconventional but interesting sedans that are all the luxury persuasion, but also have interesting power plants that give them a decent amount of thrust. So you could qualify these as performance sedans. They're not necessarily factory hot rods, but they are cars that can give you a little more kick in the pants than your standard luxury sedan. So, and one of these has a little bit of a backstory, which is one we're looking at right now, which is the 1990 Audi V8 Quattro. We're going to come back to that one and do that one last. And we also have this car, which is a 2009 Maserati Quattroporte, and a very interesting 2008 Lexus LS600 HL, which was a close to 450 horsepower V8 hybrid powertrain, which was off of my radar in terms of a car maybe worth buying someday. So with that being said, I'm going to start here with the Lexus, simply because I did not know this car even existed. And Doug DeMuro obviously does the write-up on all of these when they come online. And he noted that this was basically a way for Lexus to address the lack of a V12 in their high-end sedan lineup, which Mercedes and BMW have always typically had. This is kind of typical for the Japanese. Acura tried doing it for a long time with the RL, which was their flagship sedan. Again, I don't think that even had a V8 option. I think that was just a very powerful V6. So Lexus is, again, hasn't had I don't think they've ever had a V12 sedan as far as I know. This car is, it's in nice shape, average miles, but again, that hybrid powertrain, which gave it a whopping, so I think DeMuro said, where was it? 438 horsepower. And that certainly is a competitive number for a, again, going into a V12, and arguably more reliable, maybe less of a problematic engine down the road. I think every BMW, Mercedes V12 I ever hear about has become a total money pit by this point. So just to focus on right here, this is basically a 5-liter V8 with an electric motor that leads to 430 horsepower, 340 pound-feet of torque, and then it's four-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive. So it's a really kind of a trick car that I didn't even know was out there. I think the LS has always been a dramatically underappreciated car. I mean, it's one of those luxury sedans. You could go buy a 98 LS400 and probably use it as a daily for the next several years. I mean, look at this. This is like the Maybach style back seat. You got the reclining, the leg rest. You've got the folding table. I mean, this really kind of blew my mind that this was even an option to buy. And as far as if you're shopping for a luxury sedan, and for 17 grand, I mean, this is going to be mostly reliable, right? It's not going to be a headache of a car. And this is just an incredible amount of features and luxury. And again, you're not really giving up a whole lot in the powertrain either. You're still getting something that's going to, move out just fine. So, I mean, again, this is an outlier for me. Did not really know a whole lot about this car aside from it being an LS, and the LS always being a bit of a high watermark. But I tell you, if I was looking for something like this right now, I would give this a serious look, especially if you're going to buy one for well under 20K. What do you guys think about the LS?
Love it. Love this one, Jeff. This was a really cool find because everyone will always talk about like the Mercedes S-Class and maybe like the Audi A8s, the luxury version of those, and then also the BMW 7 Series. But I feel like Lexus is kind of, out for the count when it comes to these. I've always loved the LSs. To your first point, you could pick up an old one in early 2000s, the late 90s one for cheap. And at the end of the day, it's Toyota reliability. This is probably the one vehicle where it being a hybrid powertrain and being, pretty old, where it doesn't necessarily scare me. People don't realize it, but hybrids have been around for a really, really long time. I mean, Toyota came out with the Prius actually in Japan in, I think, the late 90s, like 96, 97. So they're very, they're a decade into hybrid technology at this point more. Um, and seeing the back seats, how they recline, all the features you get in this thing, you're getting, 450 horsepower, and I bet you're getting, 22 mid 20s for gas mileage. Also have a ton of range. It's a 20-gallon tank in this thing. I just somehow happen to know that we just had one of these on the lot recently, and I was totally intrigued by it. It was kind of blown out suspension, but even with the blown out suspension, it was like so nice to drive. So yeah, for 17K, even 20K, I think it's a great value. Now, I will say, to my last point, I do think that the Mercedes S-Class will probably always be king, like an S550 or an S600. It'll always be the king. But
Right.
A, it's going to be way more expensive if you're buying it new. And B, if you're buying it used, like this one, a 10, 12-year-old car with high miles and, a cheap price, the S-Class is going to you. It's going to take you to you. But at the end of the day, this is a Toyota. So,
Right.
It's got a lot of gadgets, man, but I don't actually think this would be too scary to own. So
No.
you are getting a lot of car for 17K. It's a lot of car.
Yeah,
I agree.
it is a lot of car for sure. And what, as you said, Lars, it's what's great about it is that it's luxury. It's that Toyota durability, reliability in a luxury wrapper. And that's as you guys said, these cars, they age so well. You can get one from the 2000, it's still going to look stunning. I mean, this is a really pretty car. It's a really, really stunning car. Lexus, kudos to Lexus, they've always done a really good job with styling their, these kind of flagship models, and that they don't look over the top ridiculous or silly ornate. It's a real classy vibe to it. It still stands up to this day. This is a hell of a deal. This really is one hell of a deal. And it's 17 grand for this car in a beautiful condition. It's you can, as you said, Jeff, you can drive you can make this your daily and be really comfortable with it. And what I love it too is I think it's kind of a longer wheelbase car, so that's why you have the seats in the back,
Right.
that have that reclining fashion. And you're getting a really good car for it. You're not looking this as a collector piece, something that you're gonna hold on to and hope you really make money off of it in 5-10 years time. But this is a car that you're gonna drive, something high end that you're gonna drive for a while, and it's gonna be a great car for you. So heck of a deal.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It is the HL, so the long wheelbase hybrid, and it's a 600. So this thing was, the big boy back in the day. If you were balling, this is what you got.
Right. Yeah, I actually.
The records too, Jeff.
Oh, a ton of records. I mean, this was a great buy. And what's shocking is that in the comments that indicates the top bidder was not being responsive. So someone's a clown, because I think this thing is just a smoking deal. And yeah, you see these records. I'm seeing a lot of Lexus dealer invoices, and yeah, I mean this is it's one thing to buy a used Lexus without records. When you have one that has that deep paper trail, it's going to be a great experience. So I actually kind of want to keep an eye out for one of these now. This is such a cool car.
Yeah, dude, holy crap. I'm like,
now it's like now I'm like,
yeah, what? Me too. I'm like, this thing is sick for 17. That is really cool.
Yeah.
I honestly though, I would, you kind of have to have a reason to have something like that. I feel like just saying it's cool, I don't know. It's really big. If you commuted a lot for work, that would be.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Some people drive 70 miles a day. That would be the move.
That's a good point. I mean, I think
that is a luxury liner for a commuter.
All right, cool. That was a fun one. This is a great car, great buy. I'd love to see one of these. I'd love to drive one of these someday just to see what it's like. But let's kick it over.
As we all jot down Lexus 600.
Yeah. But this is a bummer though. 2-speed.
Wait, Jeff, go down. Does it say the kilowatt hours of the battery? No. How do they gear it? See, I'm trying to see like how much of the power is from the battery, because how does it have a 2-speed?
That makes no sense.
Yeah, because most of the power is coming from the the engine. It's a V8,
Yeah, the
it's a
motor,
V8. So, interesting. 2-speed. That thing's probably, you know what? I'll just take it as it's extremely seamless, and you can't even feel the gears changing.
Yeah,
It only happened one time.
but remember too, guys, it's not a this isn't a performance car. Like it's you don't want to feel anything.
Oh, I'd light up the rears in this thing. Oh, it's 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, you can't do that either.
Yeah,
Oh, the 2-speed. This thing probably rips.
you just can't feel it.
Yeah, no,
or hear it.
That's crazy. See, you know what, guys? At least with a V12, like an S550, you can.
Oh yeah,
you'll know it
if you want to,
right?
And you want to merge and go 60 to 120, like that is a benefit too. But I'm okay without it.
Well, on the other side of the reliability coin, let's check out this 2009 Maserati.
Fired.
Is that oil leaking under the bottom there in that first?
Yeah, photo? No, yeah, that's coolant. Oh
no,
buddy.
they just
no, they washed it.
I don't think they were.
It's probably so normal. The guy's just like, yeah, I don't care. It just always does that. Okay, so I will say I hate most everyone who drives one of these, not because of like they're bad people, because I see them and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not surprised you're who's behind the wheel of this car, and I'll just leave it at that. However, I'm also conflicted because when I ignore who's driving it, I'm like, that's a really like an attractive design. Like it is a distinctive car, which in the luxury sedan field, that's kind of an arena where that Lexus falls off. It's attractive, but it's pretty bland. And I think a lot of luxury sedans really do take the conservative design like way to the extreme. So I like the Mazda because it is distinctive. The nose is kind of, love it or hate it, but I kind of dig it. It's got huge wheels. It sits super low. It's just like it is so bad in so many ways. Like they just don't care. They just kind of keep going with it, right? They're like, yeah, the thing is going to be massively unreliable, but let's just dump it right from the factory. Let's leave finger gap in the wheel wells. Let's put it on rubber band tires. Give it just a nasty exhaust. If you ever hear one of these things in traffic, it does sound like a Ferrari 4-door. And go on YouTube and see what people do for straight pipes. The thing just sounds ridiculous, which is not surprising that most of its owners would straight pipe and put on YouTube. That also goes, par for the course. However, the build quality is awful. Demiro's actually reviewed one of these when they came out, and he was just like shocked by how poorly it was assembled, how many parts bins, window switches, knobs, switchgear was just like, I think it was they had like I think it was Fiat Chrysler was kind of what this was born out of. So
Fiat Chrysler product.
And he was just like, this is awful for what people are paying. You can even kind of see it here, like just look at these switches are so shitty, and they're all just dinged up and scratched, and it's like, look at this is a typical Maserati owner. Like they put armor on like half the seat base and just said fuck it, they just stopped. So this, but again, there's like this little weird guilty pleasure. I kind of like, this thing is not that nice inside. I'm just looking at the rough surfaces, like scratches on the faceplate, and someone still got 27,000 out of this car. It's just shocking. So I don't know. Listen, this thing is a horrible idea in so many ways. I could not fathom spending this kind of money on a used one. But there is something weird about it. It's like the trashy girl at in high school. Where you're like, wow, that is such a bad idea, but I still kind of want to like see where it goes. And Yeah, so I that's how I look at these cars, where
Yeah,
like,
you're an animal, Jeff. Let's just throw that out there.
okay,
Well, the thing is, here's the thing. Jeff and I know someone that owned that who don't like whose spouse owned one of these at one point.
oh, husband.
I wasn't going to say the name.
I
I'll
can't
have,
remember.
I'll have to bleep that out. She drove it.
Well, again, the shoe fits,
And I think she went to what's the smaller Porsche SUV they're making?
It's no surprise she comes from a broken home, John. I'll just leave it at that. Anyway.
That is some good stuff right there, honestly.
So this car, and I'm gonna get back to university talk again. I'm not gonna name the school that Jeff and I went to, but I think someone said it best when it was like the school for rich kids that couldn't get into Holy Cross. Well, this car is the car for rich kids that couldn't get on the Ferrari list.
Yeah, right.
It's I mean 27 grand. I can't believe someone got 27 grand. Maybe because it's only 35,000 miles and everything hasn't blown up yet on it yet. But like, as you mentioned, Jeff, like the build quality and just the parts bin nature of this car is pretty atrocious. And maybe it's because Maserati has always been kind of weird. Like if you look at their history, even like in America, like their cars, especially the stuff in the 80s, was complete utter crap, and that's why they left the US, and that's why they were bought and sold 100 different times. But I mean, you're buying this for the look and the sound and that engine, maybe. I mean, it's these cars have never kind of done it for me, except when you hear one. But other than that, there's looking at that price, there's so many other cars that I think the three of us would buy. I mean, I would take that Lexus that we just looked at over this all day, every day.
And put 10 grand in your pocket.
Like it may not have the go and the sound of the Maserati, but it's not going to leave me hanging on the side of the road. And look at look at kind of like the body panels. Look at that, like that gappage between everything too. It's
I mean, you can even
it looks like from some angles, like it's just a weird. It looks like from that angle, it looks like a Z4 and like a Jag like XK had like mated at one point.
What's what you're saying, John?
Kind of,
even
does, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I apologize for the person that bought this for slagging this completely, but I run away from this.
I would turn around and run towards it personally. First of all, you guys, look, I'm in a conundrum here because I can't school you because I really don't know. I'm seeing a review from 2009 saying, so they merged in 2009. So you guys are getting lucky that this is an 09 because I don't know for sure. But there's reviews here from 2009, 2010 saying this engine was still actually made in Maranello alongside. So it is actually still the Ferrari drivetrain.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Now it's a 6-speed torque converter, but I have a little story. Way back in the day, my dad and I, he wasn't really going to buy it, but he also wasn't kicking tires. Like he's kind of impulsive. So there was actually a chance in his head that he was going to freaking buy this thing just because it was cool at the time, but he didn't. It was a Maserati Gran Turismo. And again, kind of a junker, kind of unreliable. The build quality really wasn't great, and the seats were sick. But dude, that thing sounded really cool, and we had a lot of we drove that thing for the day. It was a lot of fun to drive. I think in terms of like a theatrical kind of unique car, this is actually a good price. And Jeff, go to the top 3 comments, man. Everyone's getting jacked up. Oh, I would have paid 35.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, dude, if you try to buy a used like blown motor for a Ferrari F430, same era, whatever, it's like 50 grand.
Yeah.
Honestly, the fact that you're getting a clean, no accident 35,000-mile car. I mean, it's a piece of shit, guys, but it's not like a salvage title. It's a nice, good condition car with a Ferrari motor. Those things are so. Look at the motor. The thing's no joke. Look, and I mean, I'm trying to justify it. It is.
You are totally trying to justify this.
No, it's a piece of shit. But come on, hear me out.
But
and dude,
no.
And I'm telling you guys, when you put it in sport mode, the gearbox, it's the same drivetrain as the Gran Turismo. It's like a piece of junk gearbox.
This is. I'm sure it's great to drive, but you wouldn't want to own it.
No.
I'm looking at it from like, would you buy this car? Would you have a title with your name in it with this car? No,
but I wouldn't judge my friend if he bought this for 20. I would be like, dude, you're a freaking idiot. Like, what would you get? You get an E90 M3 with like 80K. That's kind of cropped out.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
Jeff, I would without a question take the E90, even if it had a fucking salvage title, without a question. But you know what? Not everyone has my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I think it's because the E90 with a salvage title, I'm confident if I spent 5 years with it and made improvements and brought it back to OEM plus condition, I'd get my money back out of it.
Well, it looks like people in the comments they're lining up with hundreds.
You're not making when you go to sell this car, you're losing money.
You're losing money. And honestly, again, I'm not even trying to be funny, but this is probably the worst crowd for hangers on who will try to justify, 6 ways till Sunday from their Long Island apartment that like this was the best car you could possibly own.
No, guys, you guys are being rude.
Some tool in Bensonhurst is gonna say like, "Oh yeah, this is the best thing. This shit. You guys are suckers for not paying 35 for." Like I can even just see him talking right now, and it just makes.
I know
mad.
all capital letters.
yeah. This guy
paid 35,000.
Yeah.
You guys are stupid.
I looked at what the just because I looked at this, I looked at what the winner. What he had bid on. This is his first win, but like he had bid on like
and his first loss.
But he had bid on other stuff that it was like his other bid was his most recent bids was a 91 Land Rover Discovery. I mean, this guy is just like
he almost went all the way with that one. Holy
this guy's
God.
a sucker. Like, he's like a sadist.
He was within like one bit of getting that thing.
What's wrong with that?
Holy cow! Or yeah,
he's a sadist.
He's got horrible taste, huh?
But yeah, I saw. I was like, oh, this poor guy.
And then look at this. He's asking this guy with a 750 if he'd sell the car phone. Okay, this is a kid. This is like 16-year-old kid buying this thing.
Well, you guys are being harsh. I think he's a solid guy. He has weird taste, but I mean,
he has bad taste.
Lars, you know you. This is
he's one of your buddies.
Well, let's see where it's from. I'll go visit him on my next road trip and say, "Hey, man, I think you did fine, bro."
Well. Speaking of, let's turn the tables, and I'll do some self-flagellation now, and we will jump over to let's get some of these.
Here we go.
All right. So,
Jeff,
1990 Audi V8 Quattro that I once owned, and actually you can see the listing from when I listed on BAT, and it did not sell because I think I was hoping for 8 out of it.
Jeff, by the way, you have better photos than the photos I have of the selling version.
Yeah, no, I actually thought so too.
Did you think there's a Goddard?
Yeah.
And
I think my photos were also way more honest because like this guy turned up the exposure big time on the interior. I mean, interior looks like, look at that versus yeah, I mean his interior photo definitely washed out a bunch of stuff.
Honestly, dude, that guy is such a freaking. It's like, dude, this? Isn't Instagram?
No, and I mean, just even look at the color of like all the gray.
Wow, Jeff, when I first saw the listing, when you first put the show on, I thought it was like a dove gray interior, like an E36 M3.
Yeah, I thought there was a
white like a silver interior. It's not, that is misleading in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing with this car, and I'm going to be fully transparent because I don't want anybody watching this to be like, oh, well, you lied or whatever. So this car had an unmitigated stalling condition, and it was a condition I divulged to the person who bought the car from me. It actually did this thing. It did right, like on a test drive when it pulled into my driveway. It just fell on its face. What it was like if you were at a stop, like at a low speed situation at a stop, and not consistently, but every now and again, it was like the revs, the IO would drop to a point that it couldn't sustain it. It couldn't just stay running, and it would just turn off. And so, my mechanic looked at it, and he actually even found like this old school diagnostic tool, like those pre-OBD too. And, said it revealed nothing. And it became a situation where it was like, he's like, it's not consistent. I don't really even know if we're going to find anything. Like we tore like apart the engine harness. Like, I still don't know that we're going to find that, spliced wire somewhere. So anyway, I sold the car to the gentleman who bought it. The gentleman who came and saw it, told him about the issues. He's like, whatever, I'm more worried about if the electronic features like the seats and the wipers and all this. That was more his concern. I said, okay, enjoy. He drove it home to Connecticut, had a great drive home, no issues. And then like 3 days later, he's using it like every day. Like he's using it like a daily driver. And apparently the stalling condition was getting far worse than anything I had experienced. But that was also because I didn't really use the car. I kind of just, I wanted to buy it to sell it because it was such a preservation spec car. Anyway, it appears what he did, in a comment that indicates he reached out to this seller. I guess they knew each other and offered to drive it from Connecticut out to Illinois. I guess he really wanted to get rid of it, but so it went out there. They, this is, their listing. They added the wheels, and apparently they replaced some power steering hoses that were no longer available. So they fabricated hoses, which they made it sound like a big deal. It's really not that hard to make custom hoses, but whatever. I never noticed that condition when I had it. And now here's the thing. I didn't comment on the auction. I didn't want to torpedo this guy's auction, but I don't know if the issue was ever resolved, because again, if you're driving on the highway, you got your foot in it, it never had an issue. It drove on the highway absolutely beautifully. It was like when you came to that proverbial, that like pulling into your driveway or what have you, that's where this condition would manifest itself. So when I look at this guy shared some numbers with this car in terms of what he had into it, and he indicated that he bought it for far more than what I sold it for. So I sold it for I think around 7 to the local guy, and he claims, I think he has this right here, he claims that he bought the car for $8,250, and then he put in part purchases, which is mostly the wheels and tires, of $1,300. Did this hose, new hoses or whatever. And, anyway, he's saying all in, he was into the car for $11,117. I bought the car for, just full display, I bought it for $4,000. And, did put a bit into it. It was not I think I ended up losing $1,500 on the car after you factored in the time belt job I had done. So, not the end of the world. It's a fairly, I can absorb that. But, this is just interesting to me because I thought it was worth this much when I had it listed, simply because of how clean